You want to make revenue, serious revenue at your next trade show? Strategic demand generation is how you're going to do it. Welcome to Trade Show University. Great to have you here. And I have got on the guest that is going to help us to unpack how do we do this? How do we actually get demand at our booth, people to come up to our booth. Alison French with ShowScout and LTO is here today, and I'm just more than thrilled to have her on. She is one of the most brilliant people I know in the industry and has so much wisdom and things to share. Allison, welcome to Trade Show
Thank
University. It's
you.
just a pleasure to have you here.
I'm really excited to be here.
So tell people a little bit about who you are.
I've had an interesting career. So I actually got into the event space right after university and started working in yachting and had no idea what I was doing, but found myself traveling the globe, setting up yacht shows and had a blast. And I really enjoyed the in-person element of it. I enjoyed being outside in nature while I was doing it, so I was very fortunate. And then decided ultimately that digital marketing was calling my name. I loved the idea of being able to see where traffic was coming on the website, to be able to make more strategic decisions on how I was spending marketing dollars. And so that led me down the path getting into e-commerce, which was great. I think e-commerce is actually, as a marketer, what got me in love with marketing into revenue and not just thinking of marketing as brand, but to me, marketing was revenue. And what can I do today that's going to help the business grow and drive revenue? So, quite early on in my career, I became very obsessed with growing revenue. And that is probably the one consistent throughput or thread throughout my entire career. A lot of it startup experience, both as employee number one and as a founder. And all the way along, kind of realized that there needs to be a focus of the intersection of sales and marketing is what I was always trying to solve. Whether I was on the marketing side and relating to the sales team, or whether I was managing the sales team, it was how do we bring everyone together? And that became so prevalent at events. So post COVID, people are going back to events. A lot of sellers hadn't been on the show floor in years or have ever. And we are trying to figure out, okay, well, we have all these cool digital demand generation tactics. How do we unite the two together? And there wasn't a way at the time. And it was driving me crazy because I would send sellers to the shows and they'd have their list of who their targets were. We'd have our demand generation campaigns and I would be trying to figure out, okay, do we need to deploy the 2 p.m. last day of the show, drive some last minute traffic, or are you good? And they'd never get back to us because they were busy on the show floor, which they should be. And so I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great if they could just tell me I met this person? And so that's where my journey has become over the past, call it 2.5 years. I have been working on a platform that's called ShowScout, and I'm kind of leaning into the space of sales activation and accountability. So when we think of tech at trade shows, a lot of it is focused on lead capture and what's happening at the booth. I'm really much more focused on who's going to be there, how do we get the sales team to take action and engage with the targets that match your ICP, and how do we get them to take action, whether it's coming to the booth, whether it's getting the sales rep out on the floor, trying to find the people. What can we do to ensure that when you attend a show, you're connecting with the people that you were meant to speak with? So call it 10,000 people going, maybe 50 or 100 are a target for you. How do we figure out who those 50 or 100 are? And then how do you make sure the team that's on the floor or attending the show knows how to get in touch with them and take action so that you walk away with 15, 20, 30 different opportunities, because ultimately it all comes down to revenue. And I think that's the gift of being in the startup world for so long, is without revenue, businesses don't succeed, they do not continue. And so everything is laser focused on what dollar was spent, did it drive growth? And so when we look at events and people talk about, well, we got a lot of badge scans, to me, that means nothing. It's yes, you got a lot of badge scans, but are they qualified? Where are they in their buying journey? Is it going to turn into revenue ultimately for the business? And so that's just the lens that I now bring into it anytime I'm working with a client.
Just brilliant. Yeah, love it. A few of the things you said there just really resonated with something I see a lot of exhibitors completely missed the ball. They go to a show, and I think they pick the show because they see the potential,
Yep.
because they know that their target audience is going to be there, because they know the CEOs or the decision makers from company A, B, C, and D are going to be there. We would love to meet them, but they never put together a strategy for meeting those exact
Exactly.
people. And they rely on the chance that those people might
Yeah.
walk past the booth and we might just happen to grab their attention and start a conversation. But there's so much up in the air and too many variables and things that can go wrong, and they rarely come back with those ideal people. So let's talk about this because these companies are making huge investments in these shows. I mean, it could be probably minimum average B2B in most of these shows is going to be around 20 grand when,
Easy.
absolute minimum. If you have a 10 by 10 booth and you talk about travel and all your expenses, and for some companies, it's going to reach six, maybe seven figures, depending on what you're doing there in the show. So you're investing all this amount, but are these companies getting the ROI that they need? What's going wrong? What are they missing?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I could see so many different paths to this. I think the alignment of sales and marketing is just this story that we all talk about often. I mean, I think if you read any strategic leadership um, threads right now, it's all about how do you better unite sales and marketing? How do we keep each other from operating in silos? Well, I find data is the easiest way to get everyone on the same page. And I think in a lot of these situations, marketers are going into shows and they're the ones setting up the physical elements of the event. They've got the booth, they've got the entertainment, they've got all the engagement strategies, and then the sellers show up. They may or may not have their own plan from a data perspective. And then ultimately, where does all that data go? What is the plan for your CRM? How are deals tracked? Because this is the gotchas that I'm seeing constantly. For example, in HubSpot, you've got contacts and you've got companies. Deals are run on companies usually, but if
Mhm.
contacts are all that's getting uploaded back into the system and tagged, a contact that got met at a show might not be the representative on the deal. And if you haven't tagged that company, you have no ROI reporting in senior leadership because the individual seller might know, the marketing manager might know, but if you are not integrating data to tell the global story of the interactions that you're happening with your audience at shows, you're missing the chance to correlate revenue to the efforts that were made at that show. I think you and I talk about this a lot is what is people's plans when they're heading to a show and letting that plan ultimately determine the ROI. Return on objective is another great one. What's your objective in going to the show? I mean, there is some people I talk to that and I will give you the caveat, I do B2B. B2B is my world. If you're
Yeah.
headed to a consumer trade show, I don't know. I'm sure I can help talk you through it if I ever need a brainstorm buddy, but like I do B2B. And so if you're going to a B2B show, maybe your objective is awareness, it is not revenue, then that should be a measure of success rather than being forced to look at it from an ROI perspective.
Yeah. Awareness has got to be 1% of companies. Now there might be some that go in saying, "Oh, we just need to be there," but they're just they're sadly they're missing out. They're missing
Yeah,
out. And
well, I don't know
yeah,
any leaders that are going to feel that way, right? Like, I
right.
understand marketers might feel that way, but ultimately, leadership has to be thinking about stakeholders, investors, whoever it may be. It ultimately comes down to business is about making money and being profitable. And there's not a world that exists where you can go and drop 100 grand on something and just come back and shrug your shoulders and just say, well, it wasn't a great show.
And that's something I deal with my clients all the time. And they're going in. Sometimes they say, "We really just need to be there."
Yeah.
And I always push back and say, "Okay, great. That's step one. Now that we're there,
Yeah.
why not
Yes,
really try and get more
absolutely.
qualified leads and customers and revenue
Yeah.
from this show? Why should we settle for just we're making a great branding presence. Why?
I
Yeah.
know. Well, and you should be able to get your pipeline, like truly enough pipeline should come out of a show to carry you for a quarter. I mean, depends on the business, depends on the size, depends on the
Mhm.
scale. So take that with a grain of salt. Like per salesperson, though, you should be able to go and have enough pipeline from qualified leads with high likelihood of converting into customers should be coming out of every show. Um,
Mhm.
one or two conversations is not sufficient anymore. It should be multiple opportunities where they are at a buying stage and they're looking for a product like yours, should be the benchmark that everyone is trying to get to.
Absolutely. And something that we should be doing is thinking as exhibitors, or as people working with exhibitors, we should be thinking about at the show, how far down the pipeline can I actually and
Yeah.
realistically get somebody when I'm right in front of them at the show?
Yeah.
You know, obviously for some companies, making a sale at the show is going to be near impossible. You have a 6 month lead time and a sales cycle and all this stuff. But can I get them to scheduling an appointment? Can I do a
Yeah.
demo there at the show? Is there,
Yep.
maybe I have a software package. I could do a demo right there at the show. What can I do at the show? How far down that pipeline can I get them so that my follow-up is as efficient as possible and we are moving forward? We already have momentum in the right direction. So doing that, and that is very much strategic in how you have the conversations and understanding this is my goal and this is how I'm going to get the person from greeting to setting that appointment.
Spot on. And I think that's why I enjoy all of our brainstorms so much, is because you absolutely think of it from that lens of the right person is here, now what? And I think a lot of businesses aren't thinking in that way. And maybe this is where ROI goes wrong for a lot of organizations, is so much effort is and time is put into reserving the space, getting everyone there, doing everything in addition to your normal day job. And that by the time you show up at the booth, people are just like, yay, we're here, we did it. And it's like, oh, but it just starts now. Like, and in my opinion, it's actually, 60 days before is your opportunity to really start getting conversations started to have those quality opportunities at the show. But I think you're spot on. I really do think it is lack of time, lack of resources, lack of knowledge on tech stack, et cetera, that slows people down. I don't think it's from, I think in general, everyone knows what we should be doing. It just seems like it's usually somewhat of a bandwidth thing, or I've got too much on my plate, or I think people underestimate what you just said. Like they walk up to the booth and then what? I think people sincerely underestimate their ability to take a casual conversation and turn it into a sales opportunity.
That's so good. And I think you're right. I think you're right. And they think that it's going to happen naturally. That
Correct.
that oh, if they're interested, they'll ask me for more
Yes.
information. They'll ask me for the appointment.
Well, and think of who they staff, right? Like think, I mean, I have in of every company I have ever worked with, in-person selling at trade shows, whether it was walking a show or having a booth, has been a component of the business. And I know for a fact, I, as a young marketer, was in no way, shape, or form equipped or prepared to turn any conversation at a booth into a sales opportunity. I was
Mm,
great at talking about a product. I was great at celebrating the brand. And I think that happens often. Marketing managers and coordinators are sent to shows without being guided by their leadership about expectations. But when they come back, they're held accountable for why didn't it generate revenue.
mhm,
And
mm.
it's just a disconnect
Yeah,
between, you can't expect people to do this if you don't give them the tools they need to be successful.
absolutely. And it's setting those expectations up through leadership
Yeah,
that when we come back from the show, we're not going to have an ROI in 30 days.
correct.
And we're not going to know, for quite a while, if this was a really successful show or not. And helping them to really understand Look, this is the show's job is to generate leads. And maybe or whatever the metric is, and maybe it's scheduling those appointments. And maybe we got 40 appointments. We blew it out of the water. We got 40 appointments, but we barely broke even on this show. Was that the show's fault? Or was it your sales team's fault for not knowing how to close these sales, or maybe they didn't follow up in a timely manner? There's so much there. There's so much
Oh,
there. And before we go any further
oh
down
yeah,
there,
we could do this forever.
I want to go back to demand gen. So
Yeah,
let's talk because we brought up a couple things here like around the target audience.
yeah.
Target audience. So a company is they're 30, 60 days out from the show and they have time to really dial things in. What are
Yep.
some of the steps they should be
Okay.
taking?
So I actually really am encouraging clients now, when you're looking at the shows you're going to, challenge the show if they haven't made it public on how are you going to help me connect with attendees. So start there.
Mm,
In the show selection stage, every show handles it differently, but I would not recommend anyone going to a show at this point in time if a show doesn't have a plan to help an exhibitor connect with an audience, whether that is the app Brain Date or their own trade show app or whatever it may be. But you need to make sure that that show, and I'm not saying that they need to give you a list, I'm just saying they need to have done something that they are trying, whether it's meetings, a lot of shows are doing meeting matching now. Make sure you are spending your budget on a show that is there to help you because there is a lot of shows. There's more shows coming up constantly. And so just that would be the first step is go to a show that is going to help you connect with your audience. If a show is not going to help you connect with an audience or you've already committed and it's too late, then you need to come up with your own way to figure out how to connect with your audience. There's a lot of ways to go about this. This is where I will geek out on tools and tech that you can use. But you can look at social signal monitoring. There's tools like Trigify. I think it's trigify.io, but there are tools out there that will help you monitor what hashtags are being used or how things are being talked about. And so you can keep an eye on, depending on what audience you are, who is going to be at what show. That's a great way to go about it. You can do it based on, depends on the audience, but like Qualtrics users, there's an annual conference. If you're looking for targeting market researchers, you could just use the data tools like an Apollo and say, show me companies in my sales territory that use Qualtrics. Okay, I know that these 5 job titles are typically the people I'm talking to. And so pull those job titles in. Now you have what I call a likely list. You've got a couple hundred people that you know are market researchers, you know are attending, well, you don't know they're attending the show, but you know they're market researchers, you know they use Qualtrics, and you know Qualtrics show is in 60 days. You could email them, ask them if they're going to be there. No harm in that. Like you can piece it together yourselves. And there's so many different ways to go about with data right now to take the data that is given to you or not given to you and do something with it so that you are not going in blind or hoping that people walk up to you to start that conversation. I mean, and then that social signal monitoring gets really powerful when you're at the show floor and trying to keep tabs on people you've already identified that you want to talk to and you're trying to figure out how to meet them. Looking at speakers, going to shows where the people speaking is also your target audience is always helpful
mhm.
because that kind of just layers on. So it's like, yes, you have your booth. Yes, you know that you will get some demand at your booth. But if you have the ability to say, well, the people speaking, or at least the companies that have someone speaking, are people that I want to grow my business with, you can use those opportunities kind of as hedge your bets, right? Like the speaker is a secondary audience, but they might be able to connect you to someone within that company that you want to work with. So it's really just about getting strategic with the data you do have access to and going in with a plan. Like whatever the number may be for an organization, but I know it wouldn't be worth my time to spend a day at a show if I didn't have at least 20 targets that I knew were an exact match for the customers I want to do business with. By the time I travel, the time out of office, etc. Like I should be aiming for 20 because I've never been in a situation where I've ever been able to get to 100%. So I need to have a big enough audience that I'm going after, knowing that it's hard to find people at a show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even then, if I'm not meeting 20, say I met seven, the 13 I didn't meet, I'm now able to say, hey, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to catch up with you at the show. Do you want to catch up after the fact? Or
Mm.
maybe one of the people was speaking. I can go and listen to their session and send them a nice note on LinkedIn about what resonated with me from that moment. And so it's being really, really strategic, but it all starts with who is going and who within the audience that is going is my ICP.
Okay. Wow. Got wheels spinning for sure.
Yeah, it's
So
fun.
so you've got the this list of your top
Yep.
20.
Yep.
And so you would recommend trying to reach out to them ahead of the
Yeah,
show.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And it's really cool. I think I always like to tell people, remember they're humans. Like
Hmm.
every single prospect, and as the marketer, I am not a seller. So I get cringy about outreach. So I always have to remind myself they are human first and they have problems in their life. So if you know and you truly believe that your product or service can solve a problem in your life, then you have a reason to message them. And you can message them in a way that is not puttish. Like you can actually do it in a way that's authentic. And you can say, hey, saw you're headed to such and such show. Is this a problem for you? If so, I would love to chat or I'd love to get your thoughts on it. 2 sentences. It doesn't have to be a sales pitch. If you know your audience and you know your audience is busy and trying to get them to come to your booth is going to be a problem, then you really do need to start thinking about what can I offer in my outbound. So whether that's a LinkedIn message, LinkedIn email, text message, email, show app. Remember, ultimately, everyone is a human. And I had a client that I work with that was at a show for urologists and practice managers. Doctors are busy. The exhibit hall is very far away from where the conference room or the presentations are going. So, how do you motivate them to come by the booth to get the demo? You can offer them like AirPods, like
Hmm.
100 bucks a piece. People think I'm crazy, but it works because you can give the message in the email. Hey, if you're at LUGPA this year, love to demo our new functionality. Anyone that schedules a demo during the show is getting a free pair of AirPods handed to them. So now you're motivating a behavior of a surgeon who is busy, who doesn't want to be sold. They also wouldn't give you their time if they didn't believe in the problem you're solving, but you have to motivate them to take an action when there's a lot of chaos happening. And it works. So that's the challenge I would give to people. Is it, I go to shows and I see people with the fun food items or the custom screen printing or that. I mean, all of that is great engagement, but are you engaging your right buyer? Are you engaging a person who will give you dollars at the end of the day? And so that's the lens I look at it is like, I would much rather, when I look at my cost per lead from ad campaigns and different channels, I would happily spend $100 on a cost per lead to pass an AirPod to a doctor that I know is my right target to have that face to face conversation and start to build that relationship in comparison to dropping several $100s in hopes to get someone to click on a Google ad. So I think it's just always remembering swag doesn't have to be just swag. Swag can motivate like someone to take an action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those high value swag items
Yeah.
are so important to have but you don't put them out on the table. You wait. You use those strategically. And I love what you said there is you're scheduling appointments at your booth because when you have a steady flow of people at your booth and they're interested, you will, what draws a crowd more than a crowd?
Right?
People see people at a booth that will draw them. Oh, something's happening over there. Oh, I want to, that person's pretty happy. They, whatever it is.
Point of
And
differentiation.
yeah, and you made such a great point of don't cheap out. This is an investment. And say your closing ratio from a qualified lead is 25%.
Exactly.
So I need I'm going to give out four sets of iPods
Mhm.
to get one sale.
Yep.
But what am I going to get first year from that average customer?
Mhm.
Maybe it's going to be 12 grand and I gave them $100.
Exactly.
Now what's that ROI right there? It's
Exactly.
incredible, incredible. So I hope people are really thinking about that
Yeah.
and using those incentives to schedule those appointments. And one thing that I really tell clients is try and schedule as many appointments as you can throughout the show. Uh, Use every moment of your day. Schedule breakfast appointments,
Mhm.
schedule lunch appointments. Go on runs with people if that's what they're doing first thing in the morning. Put your running shoes on and go run with them if that is one of your ideal clients. Just so good. Uh, so let's try and wrap up here. We've covered a lot on a very tight topic here of demand gen. If there were a couple of key things that you want people to take away
Mhm.
from today, what would be the things you really want them to learn?
Keep a close eye on the data your potential customers are giving you. So, you're headed to a show. If you pick the right show, they're telling you who's going to be there. You should have some form of an app that tells you the attendees. Okay, great. You have a piece of data right there. Now you've sent those people emails. Great. Open rates don't work very well anymore, but clicks do. So you can see, okay, who clicked on an email? Who connected with me on LinkedIn? If they clicked on an email, what link did they click on? What does that tell me? If you have HubSpot, you can use a tool called Buyer Intent. It used to be called Clearbit. It'll tell you what companies have been coming to your website. So you can also cross reference. I sent out emails to 100 people. Well, I didn't know that so and so from company B clicked, but company B was on my website. You can use all this data to tell you who is engaging behind the scenes. I would say that is a big part of it is don't just go and set up a booth. Don't just go and send out some emails. Be very aware of everything that's kind of happening behind the scenes. And then I would say if the show has an app, use it. Use every touch you can to connect with the people at the show because we are all human. It is easy to ignore an email 2 weeks ahead of a show. But you see the message pop up when you're sitting there at the breakfast before you start into the conference, you might pay attention. So don't assume no reply to an email means not interested. It has been fascinating. I run campaigns for clients and we'll run every channel we possibly can. So we'll do SMS, we will do LinkedIn, we will do email, and we'll do show apps. And I have kind of a flow behind the scenes that tells me who's where, and I keep prioritizing, like Outlook email has bad deliverability, so don't send to Outlook, go straight to LinkedIn. From LinkedIn, go to apps. This whole flow. There is no consistent thread on which channel works best. It is all in combination because different people at different times at different venues will engage when they're ready. And so the key is, and if you can layer on digital ads, I call it matched audience media, but if you can layer on ads to the exact audience you're targeting, ads just adds to it. You will get the replies, you will get the engagement. But if you truly just send a single email and think, oh, well, I tried, nothing happened, you've completely left at least 70% on the table.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. Fascinating. So I know a lot of companies do that. They'll just go the LinkedIn route or they'll
Yeah.
just go the email route. And yeah, you're right. You're right. Some people will just they don't use certain certain forms of
And
media,
you get distracted, right? Like
right?
there's a lot going on in everyone's life. And sometimes it's just once you're physically at the show on the floor, does your brain flip into a mode of, okay, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to process. So you can't give up. You can't assume one and done and it didn't work, so that person's not interested.
Yeah, outstanding. The one thing that I know I'm taking away from this is there's so much you could do before the show that you need to do before the
Yes.
show to make your show a success. Just knowing that your target audience is going to be there is not enough. It's not enough. You've got to engage with them, use multiple forms of media, use every channel that's available to you, but start with the show. I love that tip, Allison, that you said earlier is connect with the show. How are you going to help me reach these attendees? What
Yep.
are you going to do? I'm paying you tens of thousands of dollars of being there. What are you going to do? It's got to be more than you're just going to hand me a prospectus and say good luck. It's
Yep.
got to be something more than that. So, what I would love for you to tell people a little bit more about Show Scout. How could Show Scout help in this process?
Yeah, absolutely. So ShowScout is really meant to be a connector between what was the plan from the data. So if you're going into a show and you have 100 contacts that you are targeting, how can we empower the team on the show floor to stay focused on those contacts? And so as you're doing your pre-show demand generation, as you are walking the show floor, ShowScout basically gives you your audience that you're targeting and it helps you take action on the audience. So it's everything from the contact information of the individuals, pre-show buyer intelligence on the individuals or the companies. It's getting alerts and notifications when those people are posting to social media from the show, or we can integrate badge scanners into it. So that way, if you're at an event and you have a lot of sellers there, and maybe they're not all at the booth, you can message your sellers and say so and so that you targeted was just at the booth. You can do alerts for things like I'm saying, they're on the website. So, really using all these digital signals to empower the sales team to take action on the show floor. And then the part I love the most, because it's all about accountability, is keeping it open and transparent from all sides of the house. We went into the show targeting 100 people. On day one, seller one has met zero. Let's have a conversation about that. And so right now we're slacking who will Slack a channel. And so the team gets to bring in whoever they want, leaders, managers, etc. But it's like, okay, great, here's our coverage rate. Or we're celebrating, hey, seller one met 10 of their assigned targets. And on day one and day two, they met this. And so you're talking about the coverage rate of what happened and people's intentions in real time. So if it's a 3-day show, at the end of day one, seller hasn't talked to anyone, you can have a conversation about it. There's time to recover. Nothing is worse to me than getting back from a show and having someone just shrug their shoulder and say, it just wasn't a great show. It's like, well, but why? Were we at the wrong show? Was our ICP not there? Were you hungover? Did you not leave the booth? Did you pick out the wrong spot in the exhibit hall? Like, why? Like, please give me some data points so we can fix this for the next time. And so, what I love about the accountability side of what Show Scouts does is it's really helping the entire team, sales and marketing, those who are executing versus the leadership, understand here's what we went out and said we were going to do, here's what actually happened, and give it to them in real time so that if there's a problem, there's opportunity to pivot. And we're not just kind of coming back having wasted 100 grand and just shrugging our shoulders and saying, well, that didn't work. In my opinion, it's the missing lens in in-person events right now is I came out here to do this and here's what I actually did. There's a lot about badge scanning, there's a lot about lead capture, but this absolute, I went in here with a plan to meet these people. Did I meet them? Yes or no? Helping people actually meet them, like helping them figure out how to find the person, how to get in touch with the person, how to capture those notes, etc. And then the accountability lens of did we do what we said we're going to do? How does follow up look like? Because that's a part of accountability too. Did the follow up happen? How
Mhm.
many touches has happened with that prospect? There's a lot of data points that can be leveraged to tell a broader story. So that way, when people are saying, oh, well, that event wasn't a success, you can look and say, well, but of the 100 targets, each one only got 2 touches. Like, I don't know if that means the event wasn't a success. Maybe we need to try some new channels. Maybe we need to try some new tactics. And so it just allows everyone to have better conversations on what can we do to actually turn this into revenue rather than kind of a one and done shrug of a shoulder that it didn't work.
Oh, so, so good. And it reminds me, it's something you said in there. I want to make sure it doesn't get lost, and that is pivot. That is
Yeah.
pivot mid-show.
Yeah.
If it's a 3-day show, at the end of the first day, you should be meeting with your team. Okay, before we go to dinner, what
Yep.
worked today? What didn't work today? What can we do different tomorrow? Oh yeah, all the we have had two of giveaway items on the table. They loved the one. No one even touched the other one. Get those things off the table. Just create space,
Yep.
simplicity, do things, make sure the booth looks as good. Yeah, whatever it is, lessons learned, pivot at the end of that first day. Sounds like Show Scout could be the ultimate tool to help you make that pivot so that you're making the right impression, you're having the right conversations, you're saying the right things, you're leading to the goal that you went there for. So,
Absolutely.
Allison.
And you can pull in your team back home, which I love because in a lot of situations, you might have a marketing team or a sales enablement team who can help take action. So if you go, oh my gosh, you guys, the booth was dead. Nobody's coming. Can you send out a campaign for us? Can you do something? So if you use these tools to help get everyone on the same page, you will ultimately drive better results.
Yes, yes, outstanding. All right, Allison, I know those people probably want to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to reach
Yeah,
out and connect with
absolutely.
you?
I am on LinkedIn. I think it's French Allison, and Allison with one L, or I'm at joinlto.com.
I will drop those into the show notes, so please click down there, connect with her. You will love her, and she's gonna bring so much value to you, whether it's through the conversation, through an engagement. Allison, thank you so much
Thank
for
you. I
joining me
appreciate the
today.
opportunity.
Absolutely. Everyone, keep learning, keep getting better. Get better results, get better revenue, more revenue. That's what this is all about. And we'll see you next time at Trade Show University.